Good morning, everyone. Ohio gozaimasu. I got up really early today and I went on a bike ride. And when I say really early, I mean like 8 o'clock, so may not be that early for some of you guys, but it was really nice to get out of the house and get my day started. Once again, I'm gonna try and get some ASMR footage. It just keeps not coming out good for my other channel, so I'm gonna set that up. But it's been really nice. I went to Family Mart, got a little egg thing and a smoothie, and as you could probably hear, the jets and the semis and stuff are super loud. They're just chirping or doing whatever thing they do. Yeah, I'm just ready for a really exciting day. Okay guys, this is I don't know what happened. So I set up my phone to do the ASMR thing, walked around for a half hour or something, and came back and it had stopped recording at like 4 minutes. So I keep trying this thing. This is my third time trying it and I keep having problems. I think it might have overheated this time and just shut off because it's really hot outside. I'm gonna try it again. I'm gonna get my old phone and I'm gonna use my old phone for that. That way at least I have my phone, I could talk to people, do things and stuff while I'm waiting for an hour for the footage. But it seems to work. I'll just don't let it overheat or anything. Anyway, guys, how are things going with you? I think I'm gonna ride my bike to a different location and probably go home first. Here's my bike. Take all this off. The hat, I'll wear the hat. Okay guys, we're trying this for a 4th time. I went back home, got the real camera and set it up in a view spot. Hopefully this one works. I think the camera can see me, but right there on the fence, the little black thing on top of that, that's a camera. I know it's loud, but I think I have a microphone, so let me find that and plug that in. Just set you guys down. It's a tangled mess. Need the iPhone adapter. So what are some of the first things I noticed the first time I came to Japan? What are the things that stick out? Aside from your average everyday thing, I feel like most people notice vending machines, they notice the clean streets and stuff like that. But what were some of the things that really stood out to me the first time I came to Japan? I think one thing that I hear not a lot of people talk about, but this was something that really surprised me, was driving from the airport. When you're driving on the road, you're on the left side, which is kind of different. That's sort of obvious. But one of the things I don't hear people talk about a lot, and something I really noticed, is the street signs and road construction signs and stuff like that. They're very cute and very like lit up. You know, the little construction signs, instead of cones, they have like little kids or puppies with reflectors on it, or cats or birds or some sort of cute little animal thing. The streets, when you're driving around the sides, instead of just reflectors there, they're all flashing lights, like lit up. We got in at night, so everything was lit up and flashing. There's flashing lights all over the place on the sides of the roads. All the reflectors flash, or at least on the heavy corners. And everything's so cute. And they have like these road construction signs. I know all we really have in California anyway is those arrows that tell you to go right. Here, I noticed there's screens with, even though they're one color, they have like people waving flags and stuff. There's all these animations playing on these screens for road construction. That's one thing I don't hear anyone talk about that was really super surprising to me. And one of the other things I noticed is that cities here are very compact but spread out. What I mean is, when you think of cities in America, there's always like a city center. You know, there's like a middle area, like midtown or middle of the city, where there's all the buildings, the tall buildings, the skyscrapers and stuff. And then it just sort of goes out into suburbia, and it's just houses with yards and stuff like that. I noticed here in Japan, one of the things I noticed was the city was just really spread out. Like, there wasn't really any particular spot where a bunch of tall buildings were, and it was just sort of thick and compact all over the place. Like, everywhere you go, there's just It's really thick, narrow, like buildings everywhere. All the buildings are fairly large, but there's only a few skyscrapers here and there, and they're not normally next to each other. They're kind of spread out throughout the area. That was one of the other things I noticed. There's just the city layout were so different. Plus, they're not on like this grid system. They have, there's no grid. They just like, the streets go wherever they need to go, it seems. They're straight, but they're diagonal and, you know, vertical and like horizontal, and they're not just like perfect squares like, you know, American cities are. Which leads me to my third point. This isn't necessarily something I noticed, but I found out later and I thought it was really interesting, was Japan doesn't have street names. The main big highways and stuff have numbers, they're like numbered, but the way I guess the mail system works is they name the city blocks and not the street. So if you look at a grid of a downtown center, there's like, you know, you see the streets and all the streets have names. Here, the blocks have names, and then the houses are numbered based on when they were built, not in order. That's just like, this is house number 1, house number 2, number 3. They could be spread out all over the place, and then they just fill in over time. I thought that was really an interesting thing that I found. The third thing that I noticed, there is vending machines everywhere, and I will say that is definitely something you notice, but beyond that, I noticed that the drink selection is phenomenal here. I feel like in America, if you see a vending machine, it's either Coke or Pepsi, and they pretty much more or less have the same thing, they just have their version of it, and they only have like, what, 10 or 12 drinks. You can walk into pretty much any American fast food or convenience store or vending machine and name 90% of the drinks. Here, every vending machine I've seen, they're really not afraid to try new things when it comes to drinks and sodas and stuff. They have so many teas and so many coffees and so many juice type things, so many like, they have little tapioca ball drinks that are everywhere, and it's just really cool to have so many choices for drinks, and a lot of them are really healthy too. You know, like America, if you're not drinking water, your pretty much only other choice, unless you go out of your way to get something healthy, your only other choice if you're in a restaurant or fast food place or something like that is typically a soda or a juice of some sort. Here, there's tea. There's so much tea. You can get any type of tea you want, and they're everywhere. They're more common than soda even, you can find tea, which is amazing, and I think that's a lot of the reason why Japanese, and specifically Okinawans, people live a long time, because of their diet, their health, their lifestyle, all of that stuff. Because as you guys may or may not know, Okinawa, I think, is still the place where the people live the longest in the world here. So yeah, really interesting. Fourth thing that I noticed when I first came to Japan was the politeness of everyone. Everyone was, I don't want to say like friendly. It's like, they're really polite here. And I remember like landing in Tokyo and buying a drink from, you know, the place, the little shop thing they had. And just the person was so nice. They were like, you know, they welcomed you to the store, and they like bow, and they hand you things with 2 hands and stuff. And there's a lot of little nuances that just makes the working people like very professional, very polite. And it's just really cool, because I know you guys probably have heard this before if you watch Kit, but my wife Kit has a channel, and she has a story about when she landed in San Francisco for the first time, where she went to a little shop there at the San Francisco airport and asked the lady, she didn't see like tea as a choice for a drink, and she wanted a tea, and she just asked the lady, she's like, "Excuse me, do you have any tea?" And the lady just yelled at her and looked at her and was like, "Can't you read?" And she said she cried for a while because it was so direct and abrupt, and it was not something you'd expect from a professional person serving you. They didn't have tea, and it wasn't on the menu, so Kit asked, and that's the lady's response. So anyway, it's a very, very different culture, the way things are. And I don't want to say it's better or worse, because the more I live here, the more I realize there are things that I find better in America versus Japan, but there are clearly things that are better in Japan than there are in America. And I know right now my argument doesn't look that great because of what's going on in America, but that's besides the point. And the fifth and final thing that I want to say really I noticed is there's no space here. And I think It's interesting. I know Japan has a large population for how small it is, but even the countryside and stuff, they use things very efficiently. And when they build cities and stuff or houses, they're not having big yards around them and stuff like that. It's just everything's really compact. And when you're walking down the street, the buildings are right to the main road. There's no yard or fence or anything in front of it. It's just like the building is what you go between. You know, cities and stuff, they have the big sidewalks and all that, but it's very efficient, compact. I want to keep saying efficient, but at the same time, some of me sort of misses like walking down a street with yards, like space, having a sidewalk, and then there's a big yard in front of the house, so you're not just right next to the person's house. Here, it's pretty much no one has a yard. And even if you do have a house, it's likely that you won't have a yard. And even if you do have a yard, it's not a front and backyard. It's just wherever there's space on the property, it's the yard. There's no fence separating the front and the back ever that I've seen, really, unless it's like an American built type house. You know, most people just have maybe some land around the side of the house or something, and that's kind of the yard. And it's always fenced in. The whole house is sort of always fenced in. It's either the building itself or there's a fence. Anyway, guys, I tried to stay away from the common things like the clean streets, the vending machines. I did say the polite people, and I think that's something a lot of people notice. But what are if you've been to Okinawa or Japan, what are some of the things you first noticed when you got here, the very first time? Try and think back to the first time you came here and write it in the comments below. I want to know what other people notice first in other countries, because I think it varies a lot depending on the person and where you've gone before. Like if you've been to a bunch of other countries, or maybe you've been to a bunch of other Asian countries and you're sort of used to how they build cities and stuff like that, that may not be something that's as surprising to you, you know? So leave it in the comments below. That's what I wanted to talk about today, guys. I always appreciate you guys watching. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next video.